right? So I was making complimentary shirts. That was kind of the trade, right? Like, hey, we'll give you a cool corner spot and all the press and affiliation and everything. And so I just sewed for like 3 days straight.
On today's episode of Rise, Grind, Repeat, we talked to Quinn from Qmulative. Talk about how he's gone from growing to scaling his clothing brand. See how he did it and dive right in. Quinn, thank you so much for joining on another episode of Rise, Grind, Repeat. I think this is a long time coming. It's funny because joined in on a podcast with you that you did with Finding Arizona, and that's when I was trying to get educated and figure out what is all this podcast stuff. And from that learned a lot. And now it's kind of grown. And so it's kind of fun to see how it's evolved and how you've grown since then. But, before we get into too deep, would love for you to kind of introduce who you are and what your company is. Cool.
My name's Quinlan Wilhite, and I run cut and sew lifestyle streetwear brand out of Tucson, Arizona called Qmulative. So Qmulative. And my grandma taught me how to sew like 6 or 7 years ago in the basics and kind of sent me on my way. And I took a couple classes and ended up winning Phoenix Fashion Week, their lifestyle emerging designer category, fall 2017. And so I was kind of their guy for all of 2018. But it's been a fun run. It's awesome to be doing it full time and growing, and we'll get into kind of what I've been up to recently. But just having a blast. Learned how to sew and then took it all the way to the top.
And when did you start the company?
I've probably had the brand name since like 2009, 2010. And that was more just an online feed. So everything I was interested in, whether it be hip hop or cars or skateboarding. And so I was just, back then I was just sharing just cool stuff that I came across, right? Like a cool, I don't know, skateboarding edit out of Europe or something. So nothing really, that was just what I branded it with was the name Qmulative. But it kind of makes sense for everything that I covered. So 2010 brand name, and then product since like 2013. Wow. And then really taking it seriously since we met. So the past 3 years.
And were you working full time then on the brand, or were you still...
No, I was definitely still, up until 2000, maybe 16. Yeah, I was doing part-time restaurant work or bartending, whatever it was. Wanted to give it a good go and really go all in. So, a little sketch there in the beginning, just making everything meet, but just like whatever it was, right? Just like putting most of the money back into the brand, living at home, like whatever it took. Yeah. And now it's rad to be doing it full time and giving it what I should give it. Right.
Yep. So no, that's cool. So at what point, what was it that it was just like the realization came that's like, all right, I'm doing this. I'm going full time. And what was that process like just emotionally? Because it is a lot to make that jump, and this is my only source of income, and got to make it work.
I'm wearing one right now, but the Arizona pocket tees have always, that's definitely my signature product. So just having really good booths and consistent farmers markets, and you never know, right? I kind of got out of the farmers markets because I literally just had like a slow, 3 or 4 weeks. Right? It could have been anything, snowbirds or too hot or whatever. Just went for it. Like saw the traction. Obviously, always been confident, in what I'm putting out. I'd refined and polished my sewing, right? Like the pockets weren't falling off after the fourth wash, but just went for it, didn't even have a huge cushion money wise, but like I mentioned, was living at home and really wanted to make it work. And in that situation, you have to make it work.
Exactly.
Right? No guarantees, but just figuring it out, moving more and more product and figuring out custom fabric and bigger quantity orders. And that's probably 2016. And then just growing ever since then. Yeah.
So, right after that, Phoenix Fashion Week, you were part of that. And so it seems like you made the jump and very quickly you're gaining a ton of traction. What was that like? And I guess, can you explain more?
Yeah. So I had done Tucson Fashion Week, 2014, 15, 16, and taken a couple classes at Pima, the community college down there. So just learning. These were classes that it was stuff that I obviously wanted to learn and ended up being just really beneficial as far as like just, I mean, the example is flat pattern making. So just knowing how a garment goes together and all that, and like textiles, what's going to work on a corner or something, what's going to wash weird. So just learning all that. And then, yeah, like literally I had one sample garment that I made from scratch, which was cool. It took too long, but that's how you learn.
Yeah.
And so that's what I applied for Phoenix Fashion Week, probably spring 17, and literally submitted like this kind of crazy combo. It was like polka dots with maybe like a wood grain. It was insane. It looked cool. It was a baseball shirt. So it was a like 3/4 sleeve baseball shirt that I made at Pima. And so, yeah, applied and sent that in and got in. So I think like 200 or 300 designers apply.
Wow.
I got into a group of 15 and then ended up winning my category of 5. So I was in the lifestyle category. So it was maybe kind of like swimwear, another streetwear, maybe festival wear. If it's kind of hard to explain. Stretchy, vibrant.
Yeah.
And then me. So yeah.
That's cool. And what did it have impact on the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So we learned summer 17, we learned the business side of fashion, and it was definitely accelerated. I still go through that binder quite a bit. So yeah, everything's like being ready to pitch if and when that's the case. Dress trade, protecting your ideas. It's a little different. It's a little less black and white than like maybe developing an app or something, right? But yeah, we learned it all, and everything was on a point system. So that's kind of interesting. I remember them telling us that day one, like more or less, like you winning is all calculated, which I thought it was weird, but we all had something, like we all had a good appeal or aesthetic or product to get in, and then it was just polishing that. But yeah, so a lot of, again, back to the point system. So we had homework every week, and it was gnarly. and then obviously, some chunk of the win was based on, our final performance, our final runway show. But yeah, so just, I'm still soaking it all in, learning it all. And I'm super proud of where I'm at. But yeah, we learned everything: pitching, margins, working with the models, photo shoots and stuff. So
it's cool.
Yeah,
definitely learned a lot. And you had that probably helped you get out there a bit, get the brand out there. You mentioned farmers markets. What all have you done to get to the point to where you're at now, to where you could do it full time? And have you kind of gotten the brand out there?
Yeah. Again, so Phoenix Fashion Week was pivotal, just learning the business side of fashion. And then I'm still obviously implementing all that stuff. And like I mentioned in the intro, I was their guy for all of 2018. So it was part of like the prize package, right? As far as just business development. But yeah, started in the farmers markets, and we did a hat that did really well. Just pushing, trying to do bigger quantities, trying new stuff, right? Like a women's crop top or a tank or a long sleeve. It kind of gets cold here in February, but just running it. And then I happen to just use Next Level blanks, still do. And so someone reached out on Instagram, and they're like, "Hey, we love what you do with the shirts. If you can get to Vegas for, it's Magic Market Week, Magic Trade Show." We were in kind of like the indie streetwear one, which was called Pool, but they're like, "Hey, if you can get to Vegas, we'll cover the rest." Right. So, get to Vegas and line up your hotel, but we'll comp the booth and give you this awesome opportunity. So yeah, I did like 5 or 6 in a row. They're twice a year, like a spring, fall, and just sewing the pocket tees live. We just did a rectangle. It was quicker, and we weren't in Arizona, obviously, but just awesome opportunities like that. And so it's cool to be able to work with, a pretty big money company and be on a first name basis.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of a hop, skip, and a jump, but just being super consistent, right? Trying new stuff. I'll make I've made everything from aprons to bow ties to these little pouches. Maybe we can talk about the masks in a minute, but just going full speed and soaking it all in and kind of leveraging opportunities and just shaking hands, right? Like you mentioned a minute ago, it's been kind of too long since we linked up, but just staying on everyone's radar, right? And being consistent. So
no, I love it. And so from that, we can kind of fast forward. I mean, it's you've been growing the brand and then COVID hits. How has that really impacted your business?
Yeah, kind of. I thought I was like 2 weeks late to the mask game, or at least, people were hitting me up. And so, yeah, it started for friends and family, right? Just keeping them safer and healthier. Yep. And then, again, just pushing numbers, putting, trying to line up like wholesale stuff or bulk orders, or try to figure out. It was tricky because stuff was taking longer, right? Distribution or custom fabric, both are what I had to deal with. But and then got some awesome press just at like 4 or 5 weeks ago. So the Arizona Daily Star posted about who locally in Tucson was making masks. So that was digital and print. And then Senator Cinema, she retweeted, I think, that link.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. So that was awesome. Yeah. One of those things is like, you get congrats about something and you hadn't even seen it yet. But so the Arizona Daily Star was rad. Took a while to kind of keep up. My seamstresses were busy making their own commission masks and or other projects that were kind of already in the queue. Mm-hmm. My masks were all me. That's another thing, we can get into, just scaling. But I think it was posted like July 11th, and it took, probably close to a month to just not get caught up, but just stay on top of everything. Wow. Right. Because even orders one order doesn't necessarily mean one mask, right? It could be 6 and a shirt and a pouch. Some of these things, I'm like, how do they find these? They're like, I haven't made one of those in a while, but so the masks have been good, tweaking that silhouette, and we're doing a buy one, give one. So I'll let the orders accumulate, and then I'll donate. I'd rather donate 50 at a time or something, not like 3 here, 4 there. But really cool project and some great press, and even down in Tucson, like opening people's eyes to my brand, what else I do, right? They might've seen the shirts, but never put 2 and 2 together. But it was a cool pivot, and it was out of necessity, and I'm happy to help, and those are still going strong. So
it's cool. No, it sounds like you're always coming up with new products and new designs and everything like that. How do you, I guess, find the inspiration? I'm a huge fan of looking back and looking at data, what's selling, what's trending, all that type of stuff. Right. But how do you go about that process and figure out if it's a win or? Obviously in the digital age, you could just get really good feedback really quick. And so, with a tangible product and knowing at least as much as I know now, like it's cool to just mock up a sample or try something new, like an actual physical sample, and or try a new colorway or something, and literally just post it even on an Instagram story. Right. And get feedback. I feel like, the customer's going to give you a lot of what you need to know, right? Yeah. And know, no one's even doing anyone any favors, right? It's just just be honest. Yeah. So it's cool to be able to mock stuff up. And then back to where this all started as the blog, the online feed. So just staying true to my roots, right? Whether it be literally to do with or inspired by, right? The car scene, skateboarding, hip hop, art, more so street art and murals and stuff. I'm a huge fan of architecture. I don't know a whole lot about it, but it's interesting and intriguing to me. So trying to loop those things, or always keep those at the core of my brand. But just trying new stuff, either with feedback, or if someone asks you, maybe this is an example, right? If 5 people over the course of whatever time ask like, hey man, California pocket might be cool, right? It's flat top, could work. Mm-hmm. Right. Just stuff like that. Sometimes I'm always writing down notes, so just a blend of, that was kind of long winded, but just a blend of staying true to my brand, obviously, and just, keeping a ear to the streets, but rolling with it. Yeah, no. And that's what it looks like, the staying true to your brand. And I think that's so powerful. And I think, everyone's kind of being tested right now with that. How have you define that? What was that process like to define who your brand is, or what the brand is, what it stands for, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. So back to the curriculum from 2017, going through the emerging designer program through Fashion Week. Just really defining your customer and starting there. I just mentioned kind of what inspires Qmulative. Just we narrowed that all the way down. So I think the example that I ended up at least moving forward with, because that summer was pretty condensed. Yeah. But, maybe super specific. So 24, male, let's say a communications major, interested in maybe some similar stuff that my brand embodies, but I don't know, festivals, craft coffee, like really narrowing that down. But just
and I mean, what was that process like? Because it's talked to so many. I mean, for what we do, it's you produce content for a persona or an audience or your customer, but it's amazing how many people don't really have that nailed down. Like you just mentioned, the age, the demo, household income, their interests, all that type of stuff. And so how was that process? What did you do to figure that out?
I mean, obviously based it a little bit off, me. And so maybe I picked the age 24 because that was ballpark my age when I kind of really started taking this seriously and putting out my own product and content. But yeah, I mean, just what resonates with the people and who I could see wearing the brand. A lot of this is like pretty straightforward, but also you just mentioned it's like sometimes it gets overlooked or sometimes it's you're obviously skewed or biased because you're like, well, I like it, right? Yeah. But the pocket tees have a pretty wide range. I've made little onesies. I've made, That's got cool. A handful of my buddies' parents, are always happy to support. Yeah. But yeah, just staying true to the core of the brand. But also being ready to pivot and try new stuff. So yeah. And
is it part of the game plan to stick to that core demographic or that audience, or do you have plans to try and make new product that falls in line with other demographics to really try and grow the brand?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to go, too broad necessarily, but I mean, I remember another thing from day one in the boot camp was, I wanted to do menswear and women's wear. And they were like, hey, let's stick to men's for now, and we were all new to each other. So I was like, who are these guys? But they had 10 years plus experience, right? And so that's what I stuck with. So yeah, that's where I'm going to transition to or expand into with the brand is what I put down the runway the past 3 years. So from scratch, cut and sew garments and just having fun with that, tweaking the silhouettes and pushing the boundaries. And, you just got to stay in your lane, right? I mean, you can go to the trade shows and take cues and stuff, but they're more or less already in production. They're just waiting on like quantities order wise. Right. So yeah, I'm super stoked on what I've put down the runway and just getting all those puzzle pieces together, right? As far as, a budget and reliable production and everything. But yeah, so that's a new avenue for the brand. And just learning a bunch going through this pandemic and everything. But I mean, the Arizona pocket tees are still doing really well. So if those are the means to try new stuff or expanding or finding good seamstresses that you can trust with the more intricate stuff. Yeah. So yeah, new products, I want to get back into more content, and it's cool. Some of the emails I get these days, right? As far as like, hey, I've never done anything fashion, right? Maybe they're more like a landscape photographer or something. And then, but if you're good, you're good. So some of my favorite recent content has been from people that were new to my niche, right? Yeah. Just to my industry. But yeah, always looking for new stuff. I did U of A Fashion Week a couple times. So that was cool. It was all student ran. And it was, again, kind of full circle back to that, I don't know, not 24 because you're out of college, but just that younger. Yeah. We're not old by any means, but just, we're kind of enough time's gone by where even my brothers are out of college. Right. So that was cool to kind of tap back in, like literally to that 20, that young, maybe junior, senior kind of figuring it all out demo. So yeah, a lot of wheels turning, but it's fun.
That's as long as you're having fun. That's the big piece. I mean, once you have it narrowed down on who you're really trying to speak to or who your audience is, it just helps with that content production because it's when you know who they are, it's easier to know how you want to communicate to them. I love that you're producing ongoing content and stuff like that. I mean, how much has that played a part in your overall growth? Is the ongoing content production and showing people what's kind of behind the scenes and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm heavy. I remember when my friend she's like, no, you got to at least try Instagram stories. Right. And I've never even been super consistent or heavy on Snapchat, but I'm like, But anyway, so I'm super heavy on that. I love the behind the scenes. I like Instagram because as someone who's inspired by all these further along designers, right? Like it's cool to see the behind the scenes content and the meetings and, not necessarily what they had for lunch, right? But like, and just cool stuff. I'm still pretty active and inspired by, let's say those 4 core principles of my brand. We just happen to have an empty pool at my dad's house, and they call it a permission pool. And so kids will come skate, and we've had a couple pro teams come through. And
that's cool.
And we had a house party way back, and I just got this huge, like 6-foot Qmulative vinyl decal, and we slapped it in there, and that's still there. So these kids aren't necessarily wearing my shirts, probably because they're full sponsored, but but the logo's in there, and it makes for some cool photos and just meeting people from, that are just kind of passing through Tucson. But I love the behind the scenes and the sewing, and, I'm scaling now, but I still do, especially with the masks. I mean, I had to make all that work. So it's just cool. Like I'm obviously the face of the brand, but I mean, I just take over Megan's apartment when I'm up here in Phoenix. But I'll definitely be sewing, a good chunk of the rest of the afternoon. So stuff like that, and meetings and teasers and getting feedback and running polls, and it's a handful, but again, I love it. It's a blast. I think that really shows through in what I'm putting out. But I love the behind the scenes content. I think it adds, it tells more of a story, and it brings more value. And even to someone brand new, it's like, oh, this kid's actually sewing and just running the brand day to day. Some of it's not that glorious or sugar coated, It's like,
no. And I think people love the behind the scenes. I mean, it's say it all the time. I think that's why like reality TV has grown in popularity so much. People just like the behind the scenes, and really what it does is for a brand, I mean, it really humanizes it, which that's I think a growing trend of what people want. They don't want to just buy from a brand, but they want to feel like they have a relationship with the brand, and you really help do that, not only with yourself, but with the brand as well. And what a lot of businesses struggle with, it's like everyone knows they need to produce content. The hardest part is, what do I produce? So how do you kind of go about that, trying to think through what does that content production calendar look like, or how do you go about
I don't
that?
have it like all the way scheduled out on a calendar necessarily, but again, coming out of Phoenix Fashion Week, just getting used to putting out just a lot of content. So just keeping that, staying true to that, but just trying new stuff, right? I'm obviously a little heavier on the stories than the actual posts. Not that there's like any like this high criteria to like, is it post worthy? But just working with new people, like again, people that are new to fashion, new models looking for unique looks, doing more of a campaign, right? Like, and really being thoughtful about that, not just slapping a feel good or slapping, I mean, we did the buy one, give one, which is awesome. And I've probably coming up on 500 masks. Wow. So there's that, which has just been awesome, obviously, given everything we're dealing with, just to keep everyone safer, healthier, but also the give back to, I think the first 100 went to the Tohono O'odham reservations, and they got hit. I mean, one of the hardest spots in the nation. Stuff like that. Campaign, the skateboarding, doing cool collabs with non-fashion brands, right? Or non-product even necessarily. So we did a cool one yesterday. It's with, I think it's Rice's Roots. So it's, however it's pronounced. So Roots in Spanish, they just changed the username, but they do bouquets and they're heavy into plants, and they just crush the farmers market scene. I think their main one's in Gilbert, but just working with new people, right? And having fun with the custom fabric we've done. We've taken, this is a photo of an agave that was, our friend took at the Desert Botanical Gardens up here. So just having fun with the custom fabric and working with, I mean, you name it, breweries, restaurants. That's cool. I did, TEDx Tucson. We've done, I'm sure we've done some like a bachelorette party in the mix, but I mean, if a product's working, might as well max it out and tweak it. And we've had screen printed stuff, coming out of the pocket and all that stuff. But that's cool. Just kind of applying that dynamic or principle to everything I'm doing, right? Might as well not, I mean, never jam anything down anyone's throat, right? You don't want to be overpowering or overbearing, but I mean, just being super consistent. I think that's that's one of the things I always preach. So
yeah, I mean, consistency is key. That's where a lot of businesses will start seeing huge success, is just being consistent, doing it in, day out. And you've mentioned scaling a couple times. We'd love to kind of get into that. Like, what does that mean to you, and how have you been able to start that process?
Yeah, it was definitely long overdue. I don't even know the number, but just to think back on how many I've made since, let's call it 2014, right? And that's just one product. But yeah, we found some seamstresses down in Tucson. Tucson's a little smaller, so you kind of know who's doing what and at what level as far as quality. So yeah, just figuring that out, right? Die cuts and the next steps, and it's obviously freed up time, right? So then I can focus on more of the cut and sew, the garments, the next steps for the brand, or just doing anything else really. Like, I mean, this is a rad opportunity, right? It's not locking up half my day, but I wasn't stuck at home sewing. So yeah, we have some seamstresses down in Tucson. We've worked with some up here. And so those are really great starting points, moving forward as we get more into the, more intricate stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been cool. And their sewing's top notch. It's nice to be able to drop stuff off and all right, like, see you in a week. But that's been cool, because when it was just me, I obviously had a maximum, let's say a certain brand's minimum was 100 shirts. It's like, for me, that was kind of, at least in a week or a couple of days, that was kind of like, all right. Right. So now it's nice to be able to entertain these bigger orders and fulfill them quickly.
Yeah.
This has been a tricky past couple months, just places either being closed and or not having a budget because they've been closed, right? Boutiques, whatever it is. So the turnaround times are better on custom fabric. So it's nice to be back in that groove of, I picked up and dropped off 2 orders yesterday, and it was the guys that do plants and the flower bouquets. And then the other one was a nicer salon down in Tucson. So just like, it's cool to have that signature product and have people value that as something like, oh yeah, like I would love to do a Qmulative shirt, right? Like the example I always see is like the guys that do branded bills. Like it's a cooler, I don't know, it's different obviously than embroidery, but it's cool. You can have fun with it. I don't know what their minimums are or anything, but I've met them. I've met them, and it's cool to see those guys scale too. Yeah. But rolling with it. Yeah.
And at what point was it where you knew you needed to hire? Because it's tough, because once you get to a certain point, it's you try and do everything, and if hiring someone's going to cut into margins, which you might have to increase prices, figure it all out. But I mean, what was that breaking point that finally made you realize, like, hey, I need to bring on help?
Probably a year ago, and still working. I mean, again, I was Phoenix Fashion Week's designer for 2018, but I've worked with them, going through all the trade shows and everything. Just kind of funny how it all came together. We actually met or saw the lady in Vegas at this magic trade show. And so her and Brian Hill from Fashion Week, they knew each other just over the years. So kind of crazy that it came full circle, and we at least initiated the conversation in, a different state technically. Yeah. But yeah, it worked out. So we're working with Nancy and her crew. And, again, it's always weird kind of passing the torch. Like, you want to, it was literally my baby. It was what I had built for, I call it 5 years. So obviously just making sure the quality's there and the turnarounds and at what priority are you, and working out margins and pricing, and obviously the higher quantity, you're going to get a better price per. But again, just going for it. Same thing with the farmers markets. Way back, I was confident enough in my sewing or my products to sew on spot and have fun at the farmers markets and try to get some product on body. So yeah, same thing a year ago, just passing the torch. They were happy to help, and it was right. We're not making they're not making a button down from scratch, right? It's more piecework. It's a little simpler, but it was cool. It was another project for them, and they at the time, for whatever reason, were looking for projects. So it just made sense. But yeah, just getting the feelers out up in Phoenix, and yeah, it was probably 2 years overdue, but I don't know. But in those same 2 years, I kind of built everything else up. Yeah. So you can't really hindsight it too much. Yeah. But
what does it feel like now, knowing that, like you mentioned, you can or drop something off, knowing it'll get done. You're not the one having to do it. I mean, what does that feel like, and what have you done with the extra time?
It's a good feeling. I'm still doing the custom stuff, like the one-off stuff that'll come in on the website myself. I've got a cool design your own option, which that's fun to see what people come up with combo wise. But yeah, that's been great. Just getting time back to tweak, try new stuff, right? The masks just out of necessity, but also kept me busy, right? Since like March. Take new meetings and line up new projects, and focus more on building a team. That's definitely a next step for me. And just, really, really growing it, trying to get more on the exponential side, right? Versus do, I don't know, maybe another 10% each year. It's like, we really want to push
300, 400%.
And just lining up stuff to really be ready, not if, but when I delve into releasing a full collection, right? Yeah. So let's say, I don't know, 8 tops, 8 bottoms or something like that. So yeah, I mean, they've been great. Their turnaround's good. They're happy to help. And it's, I always bring them cool new fabrics and combos and send them photos and stuff after the fact of people wearing them. But cool, I'm kind of one of the hometown boys, right? Yeah. And so it's cool to see what big commission projects they get. They're doing simpler pleated masks, but I think they could, if they needed to, they can do 1,000 a day. So they've got some big space and a cool operation going. But just having time to maybe at the very least just keep it fun, right? Not get burnt out. So yeah, it's been great, long overdue, but I'm stoked to have that help. And that's what I tell them every time. I'm like, I can keep bringing you projects, and they're like, yeah, let's bring it on.
Keep it coming. Doesn't it feel good to see the business grow and move forward, and it doesn't take as much of your time to work in it, and then you can just work on it a bit more?
Yeah. It's always weird kind of passing that torch, but yeah, it's cool. No, I'm proud to do it full time, and that was a big step. It's been rad, kind of crazy. Like I remember my friend Courtney Faye, I've known her since kindergarten, and she said just within the past 5 years, like whoever thought Q would be designing clothes, right? We grew up playing hockey and riding dirt bikes, and always just rad to see how it all pans out. I think I mentioned it, but my grandma taught me how to sew. At least the basics, and sent me out on my own. But that's another layer too, right? Making grandma proud, my grandparents proud, and fashion's always been around, but just kind of sharing what I do and teaching them more about it. I think my grandpa's still figuring it out, right? No better, no worse, no judgment, but it's cool, like getting press and getting print interviews and articles and stuff like that. So yeah, shout out to everyone who's been pushing me since day one. And the more you do, the more you win, the more the bigger players that you work with, it's going to give more credibility and validity to what you're doing. So yeah, it's rad. I'm happy to have production, and I'm like with the pocket tees, I'm going to obviously not max that out, but just really push it. We're working on die cuts and just making things more efficient. And then from there, you're going to just get better prices. So kind of a long-winded answer, but learning a bunch, happy to pass the torch, and they're happy for the work, and they're proud of what I'm doing and who I'm working with. So,
that's really cool.
But yeah, it's nice to have some time. But still an entrepreneur at the end of the day. So not a whole lot of gray area. Yeah. Right. I mean, I still gotta, and everything, right? Just the grind behind it. And, if I'm not sending even a blind email, like, hey, my name's Quinn, I do this, that, and the other, I think we might be able to align. It's like, that's black and white, right? If you're not getting the feelers out, as you have, whatever that situation is, it's like, you don't even have the shot. So, but yeah, just the grind, running around to the fabric stores. And, that's another thing too, building a team and just making everything more efficient. So even, shipping everything, like I'm always running errands, but there's got to be, better ways. So
yeah, I always found to make it more efficient, but yeah, I bet, Grandma's definitely proud.
Yeah.
Seeing, that the education taught you something, and you're really running with it and turning it into a business.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, she, a couple stories here. She's got an older machine that's built into a table, and so it can do just heavier duty things.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's been working on that forever, right? And it's just so used to it. So literally my first machine, she didn't want to even take the time to learn something new. Not that she couldn't, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so she gave me that and kind of sent me out on my own. But it's cool. And then I feel like all grandmas are humble, so she doesn't want, I mean, she taught me the basics and credit where it's due, but she's like, no, like you've taken it so much further. And like,
yeah,
so that's that. And then it was cool to connect with her on something that she had always grown up doing. I think she told me her story was just, she wanted to make not even better necessarily, but just different clothes for like her dolls. I think that was her story. So yeah, it's cool. It was a lot of trial and error, even figuring out just a simple kind of upside down house shaped pocket. She taught me a tote bag and all that stuff. So it's cool. And then back to my grandpa, like I think he's still piecing it all together even now, but at the very least, I kept coming back over to their house with more orders, right? Or a bigger pile of blanks, and we'll figure it out. So yeah, she's proud, and I wish I could see him a little bit more now. Everyone's just trying to keep it lower key and healthy. But yeah, I'm always sending her links, and I'll send her this, and she'll be stoked.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
So I mean, you've definitely been growing a lot. That's awesome to see. And I mean, now you're bringing on a team and building that team. I mean, the sky's the limit. Yeah. What does that future look like? I mean, the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, what does
definitely pushing to get just more money on board, just to be able to scale at scale, if that makes sense.
Scale the scaling.
Yeah. And then working on a team. One of the girls, Marcella, she was kind of friends with the Fashion Week crew, but at the time she lived in Vegas. So one of our other helpers who lives in Phoenix, Paula, they knew each other from college. So they just, she stayed with her. And anyway, so she came, she just wanted to check out the trade show, I think she might've been a merchandising major or something. So super into the scene, had never been to a trade show, at least of that scale. And we were able to get her in, and kind of funny, long story short, we ended up getting rocked at my booth. Right. So I was making complimentary shirts. That was kind of the trade, right? Like, hey, we'll give you a cool corner spot and all the press and affiliation and everything. And so I just sewed for like 3 days straight. But yeah, so we're full circle trying to make, line everything up to have her help. She's back in Tucson, which is where she's from. So like some of the stuff you just can't make up, but I would love to get a helper but also like bring a lot of value, right? Obviously in the content, but also just teaching her everything I know. And I'm sure I can learn a lot from her. I didn't major in any of this. I took a couple classes, but I want to bring value. I'm not going to make people, go to the post office or check my email. I mean, maybe, but
you'll get to a point
but like, I don't know. We just really want to learn and grow and push it. So yeah, a little bit more money, a team, or at least an intern, which is kind of cool. I haven't mentioned that, but I had $1,500 to my name. This was summer 2010, and shot out like 75 emails and ended up lining 4 unpaid internships within streetwear in LA. So it was 2 private label hat companies and 2 boutiques, literally whoever emailed back. And it was all unpaid, but that's what got my feet wet. So again, another thing that I'm proud with is to go full circle right at almost 10 years later. And because I started as an intern, to just entertain the idea of having one of my own. So I think that's super rad. But just scaling bigger and bigger orders. And then once you can fulfill those on time and deliver, just kind of keeping that reputation up, and just affiliations, cool collabs, cool campaigns. And make it super genuine, right? Not just slapping their logo on my thing, or I don't know, telling a story,
getting
having
creative
fun.
around it.
Yeah, this is real quick. This was one we're doing with Mezcal Carreño. So the mezcal's up from obviously Oaxaca, but they're running it out of Phoenix, or at least the distribution kind of side of it now. So it was cool. It was our own photo that we did some custom fabric with, and then for these shirts, we're planting an urban agave. So just either a decorative agave, either in Tucson or Phoenix. They actually have a lot to do with the bat population and however that works with the sonar or whatever they use to kind of navigate. But kind of cool. Kind of like I'm learning about the spirit itself and the heritage. It was a cool give back in the community, kind of bridging these 2 cities. And they've won a lot of awards, which is just part of it, right? You never want to
No, they're crushing it.
Yeah. So just a cool project. Like they brought some mezcal to a local first event downtown, and just kind of cool to see how it, I don't know. And I love the ideas and the kind of creative stuff that people come to me with, like, hey, could we do this? I'm like, yeah.
Why not? Let's try it.
Yeah. Just having fun. Again, really, really putting out like just really complete projects,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. I mean, and as we kind of wrap up, there's a lot of people out there trying to create their own brands. I mean, fashion is just a growing thing, and more and more people want to do it. So, I mean, someone that's out there thinking about it or just getting started, I mean, you obviously went through a program that taught you quite a bit. I mean, what are some pieces of advice you'd have for someone in the, clothing industry that's trying to get started?
Right. Yeah, you can, again, like I mentioned earlier, you can just get a lot of feedback like really quick, and so I think that's cool if you have the means to at least get like a sample made or something. That's a pretty straightforward starting point. And then on top of that, I guess more umbrella, the three pieces of advice that I always try to stay true to and pass along are, consistency, the networking, right? Those kind of go hand in hand, and also just asking, right? So maybe you can get a sample made, maybe you can't, but just at least mocking something up digitally and getting some feedback, asking for feedback, asking for advice, right? I'm still learning, and there's some big player brands, State 48 and those guys up here. And so, asking for feedback, asking for advice, asking for a connect, asking for a meeting, right? Yeah. Maybe do your research and be confident in where you're trying to go or what you're currently doing. And, again, hey, my name's Quinn. I make these Arizona pocket tees. We might be able to align in this, that way or the other. Just got to ask.
That's the big thing.
And you never know. And, but it's cool. Some of the stories that come out of that, even if we don't collaborate on anything ever or just at the very least stay on someone's radar, right? For 7 years down the road, who knows? But I would try to get a sample made, and I'm always happy to help or send people any which way for embroidery, or like, do you have any like kind of edgy tattooed friends? I'm trying to do an alleyway shoot. You never know. Like I'm happy to just connect people. But that would be my main thing. Just ask. It's a little different, at least right now, with maybe not meeting up with someone at Starbucks. But trying to learn stuff virtually, and it's been cool to see all the bigger brands or bigger schools, I guess, kind of pivot and how happy people are to share. To kind of tie that up, I remember one of the first things they told us in the emerging designer curriculum was, and we were all so different because we were a group of 15, and there was like a couture, maybe ready to wear, and then we were streetwear, but no one's taking like anyone else's piece of the pie. Yeah, that was a big hurdle, and so to your point, as far as fashion is definitely a saturated market. Most are. Yeah. Still got to go for it. Yeah. I
mean, any industry you talk about, everyone says every industry is saturated. There's just tons of people and tons of people doing stuff, but if it's something that you love and, find how you can carve your look, your feel, your brand, your, who you're trying to reach. And
yeah, I agree. Just gotta go for it. Yeah. And just another thing there is just like perspective, it's just like, you can't really argue if something's saturated or not. Like it probably is, but what's your angle there though? Like, is that going to be an excuse, or can you be like, maybe fill a niche, fill a void, or at the very least, obviously put your spin on it and stay true to yourself. And it's been cool to follow some of my favorite brands who've been in it 10, 15 years. Right. And then the time doesn't even necessarily mean anything or guarantee anything, but just cool to see everyone's like different blueprint, right? And then full circle and go to these trade shows and I met a couple of them back in August. It's just like cool to obviously shake a hand. Obviously they're real people, but you get it to a certain level where it's more corporate, or you might not get an email back from head honcho. Yeah, but it's cool how happy people are to share. So cool. I like to keep that going and just kind of spitball and bounce ideas around. And again, I think staying on people's radar is clutch. But I would just say go for it. I'm happy to help. I know State 48 and those guys are happy to help. And those are just two players in streetwear, more or less, you know? So yeah, consistency, asking, and networking. That's what I would, what I always try to pass along. And if I ever get off course or whatever, go back to the core of my brand, and then also just what's been working, right? And just pivot and kind of evolve from there. So yeah, just go for it.
Yeah. No, I love it. And Quinn, it's been fun. It's since we met 2 years ago, watching you grow. I mean, it's hearing that you're, building out that team. I mean, it's going to be fun to see what the next 2 years brings. And who knows, maybe we can have a follow up and catch up again and just see where you're at. But I'm excited. I mean, you're going to crush it. You're just, you're just out there doing it. So, but I mean, if anyone wants to get a hold of you or check out some of your products, I mean, how can they find you? And
yeah, so again, it's Qmulative, just spelled Qmulative, but with a Q because my name's Quinn. So yeah, Qmulative. That's going to be the username across all the platforms. The website is qmulativebrand.com. But again, I'm happy to connect people and give feedback and be honest or suggest something, right? There's now a digital version through Phoenix Fashion Week, kind of out of necessity. But yeah, it's just cool to see like the next wave coming up. And it's also not scary necessarily, but inspiring. It's just like a lot of other people gunning for it too. So yeah, please reach out. I'd love to engage with you guys and see what you're up to. Maybe we can collab so yeah. Again, I appreciate this opportunity, and I would love to follow up. I had someone tell me this over the years. Maybe the thing that really takes you to that next level, it's like maybe you haven't even thought of that yet. That's always a weird thing too. I mean, these are the means to a lot of what I've done, the Arizona Pocket Tees. But yeah, man, just kind of soaking it in and always jotting notes and kind of taking cues, but putting your spin on it. So again, yeah, please reach out. I love to engage with everyone. Right.
Yep.
And stay tuned for what I've got coming down the pipeline. So again, man, thank you for this opportunity.
No, thank you for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.